Hello there guys and welcome back to the channel. So we're back again with another Alliance War video, and this war I will not have too many fights and it's actually gonna be quite a dreadful fighting. If I uploaded the previous war saying I had like the perfect Nick Fury fight, then this is going to be the absolute worst. And as you can see here, once again with Nick Fury against Nick Fury, but this time I will miss pretty much all my intercepts and I'm gonna get wrecked quite quickly, unfortunately. Normally I'm relatively comfortable with this fight. I don't stress too much, but I don't know what came on to me, and as a result of this fight, pretty much most of the fights for the rest of the world will be less than ideal. Luckily though, this will in fact be the only death from the war, so you know, it happens. Can't do much about it now. Can only play better next time. Either way, so here we can see that so far we did actually quite well, but we also pushed Nick Fury to level 3. He's only at 12% though, so definitely at this point it's not a perfect situation, but we could still pull it out of the bag if we played well. Unfortunately, I do miss an intercept here. I start to get hit. I try to drop my own level 1, which goes unblockable, so in effect it does pretty much annihilates the guy, and now we're both on our second life. And this shouldn't be too hard because I'm unblockable, and so was he, but he's unstoppable now, and I miss the intercept again, and I eat the level 1, and the fight's over. So that one last missed intercept largely is what made me die here. But it is what it is. So I'm just going to quickly revive Nick Fury. Now, one great thing about Nick Fury is if he goes down, you can just put in a couple of health potions on him. There is absolutely no need whatsoever to heal him back all the way up. And yeah, so that is exactly what we're going to do here. And we're going to go in back to finish that Nick Fury, because I'm also going to be taking on that Dr. Doom. This time I'm going to be trying She-Hulk against that Dr. Doom. And that fight is going to be extremely messy as well. But yeah, so then I realized that I had forgotten to boost as well for that fight, but now I'm going to rectify that. We're going to put on 15% attack boost, 20% champion boost, going to go back in. We'll try and finish out this fight. It shouldn't be too tricky. I reckon if I land a full combo, the fight will be over thanks to that huge bleed Nick gets. So now I just wanted to block bait a heavy attack and go in for one combo. And we can see that he absolutely melts away. Nick Fury has some insane bleed damage. And now I got to go and take care of the Dr. Doom. And the Dr. Doom on that spot in particular is an extremely annoying fight because of brute force and like Mystic Dispersion and his tankiness and everything else around the fight. It's just very, very tricky. That power focus consistently pushes him to level 2, goes unstoppable. There's a lot to deal with in that fight, but I thought that She-Hulk should be pretty much perfect counter, and I still think so, even though I'm going to be messing up as much as I did. So here I'm just starting with some heavy attacks to make sure I have my slow debuff active, because as we know, if you have slow debuff or petrified debuff on Dr. Doom, he cannot enter his aura, and that makes him a lot easier to deal with on defense. Now you do need to still be careful on that unstoppable buff toggle. Obviously there is Siphon that's still ever so present, and it's just frustrating. So yeah, there are a lot of bad things happening in this fight. Now here I push him to level 2, and we can see how much block damage did that do thanks to the Siphon node. So at this point I'm already relatively worried. Luckily I'm doing quite fine here. Spammed a bit of heavy attacks, got some Furies back up, not too bad, but I miss away the level 1. Normally I'm quite fine with avoiding that level 1, to be fair. I've been getting like better, but I don't know, sometimes when it just doesn't go straight up, it doesn't go straight up. Not much I can do there. So once again, he goes unstoppable, he drops his level 1. I drop my own level 1 as well, but now he has aura active, and that means I definitely have to land my heavy attack to basically kind of like disable it and make sure he can't be unstoppable. And now at this point, now we are quite close in the finishing lane. We can see that I'm at 10%. This fight is definitely super close. I dropped my level 2, he's at 15%. I cannot rush in now, that's very important to note, because I didn't have a slow debuff active and he had Unstoppable on. Now, this was the point where I got lucky. I thought I'm going to reach him with my heavy attack and I didn't, but luckily he didn't punish that. So this fight could have been an easy wrap as well. I certainly did not play to the best of my ability, but it is what it is. And now I got asked to help out on path 2, on section 2, to deal with this encroaching stun thing. And I'm quite used to this fight. It's a relatively easy fight with Quake. Only thing you have to kind of be careful is obviously time the encroaching stun timer, because if you have concussion active at the time that timer would expire, you do not get stunned. And for most part I do it quite well, and even if I miss it once, typically it doesn't end up with too big of a consequence, largely due to the fact that my aftershocks expire soon afterwards for most part, and that means they cannot like fully go and combo me into oblivion. They will be stunned for part of that time as well, and that is something similar that is going to happen in this fight as well. You can see that I mistimed that encroaching stun timer. Unfortunately here I nearly made it in time, but I didn't, and he started to unload at me, but then he got stunned, so that kind of like saved us. And at this point I'm feeling relatively safe because we are already well over halfway through the fight, and my timing kind of like works out better as well at this point, and I just need to keep on going, keep doing the same thing as I'm doing now. Also in the encroaching stun fights, I typically like to rely on heavy parry much more, because that kind of like maximizes the uptime of concussion you have. Because you're not evading opponent's attacks as much and you're just standing and charging your heavy attack. So whenever you deal with encroaching stun, if you're using Quake, it's always a good idea to simply heavy parry, and that will let you maximize the uptime of your concussion. Now this vision Arcus was not meant for me, so I did not take this node, and the next time I checked the board there was only the left mini boss and the boss to do. So this time we have Mojo on power gain node, and this probably will be my, I think, second time dealing with Mojo in war, and I honestly not entirely sure exactly again like how to fight him. I haven't had too much experience. The only thing I really deeply know for a fact is that Quake can deal with the guy, and that's all I'm interested in. He's not stun immune, so the fight isn't going to be too bad. He has increased power gain, but since we're using Quake it won't matter, and we're just going to be quaking this guy down into the oblivion. Now this is a 6-star rank 2, so he is a fairly chunky guy, and I am not running Suicide Masteries, so that is definitely something worth keeping in mind. But other than that, the fight is going to be relatively simple. Since we're not striking him, he gains no power. Also, since we have no buffs that have a limited amount of duration, even if he activates his aura, I will not be getting the degen. And yeah, so it's quite a relatively simple fight, just like every other fight with Quake. Obviously, Mojo is also a Mystic champion, so that gives us class advantage and means we have increased damage, which is definitely going to be helpful, trying to finish this fight out as quickly as possible. I do not want to make any more kind of like silly mistakes. This war has been pretty much as dodgy as they come, and I certainly am not overall too happy with how I did in it. But it's over, so there's always the next one, right? And the season is almost over as well, so that's a good bit. And yeah, here we can see that minute in the fight he's left at 32%. He has his anti-life field active, but once again it doesn't really do anything as long as we do not have buffs that expire, so I don't care even if his life field is or isn't active. And overall, yeah, it had been a smooth sailing and relatively simple fight. So here he's at like 2% health there, activates anti-life field. I could probably just drop a heavy attack and finish out the fight, but why risk it? So I wait for the next set of aftershock, and the fight is over. Very easy, straightforward fight with Quake. And in this war I'm also going to be taking the boss, and boss this time is Dormammu, and it has been actually quite a while since I fought Dormammu boss, but since I had She-Hulk, I figured I can take Dormammu boss as well. I hadn't actually ever done this fight before, but we can see how it works out. So we're starting off with some dashback intercepts to try and push him up against the wall. Now the beginning of this fight is going to be a bit dodgy because he doesn't really want to throw his special attack, even though I had 4 Furies on at that time. Obviously I had dexterity buff on me. I didn't switch off dexterity. It means I'm taking some degen damage, but I'm not too worried because I know if I'm gonna get in a rhythm, I'm not gonna have anything to worry about, and I can basically have him throw his level 1s and then await them without triggering dexterity, so nothing too kind of like critical there. At this point I'm at 48%. I have 6 Furies and I pretty much have this fight under control. Now the only thing that I need to do is make sure I get him pinned against the corner and keep aggressive to maintain my Furies and maintain a good tempo of the fight. Dropping my level 2s, I typically feel kind of like safer dropping level 2s because quite often after level 1s I have noticed that opponents do not directly want to throw the special attack, but after level 2 they seem to be a bit more cooperative. And yeah, so that is pretty much what we're up to now, just dropping our level 2s for some extra damage, and it also helps to push opponents past bars of power relatively easily because it gives sizable chunk of a power. Now here I trigger Dormammu's ability once again, but I go for level 1 and the fight is over. So that is it for today's video. We did win the war. Thank you very much for everybody watching, and see ya.